Hey there, and welcome back to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's really loud, that things just aren't quite working out, like you're stuck, maybe pushing against something, feeling resistance. If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. It's a really common
Well,
feeling.
absolutely. That feeling of struggle, like you're constantly swimming upstream, it can be exhausting. It really can. Makes you question things, feel a bit powerless sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually brings us right to the core of this deep dive today. You sent us some really interesting source material that looks at this exact challenge. And your questions were so practical, really cutting to the chase. Things like, how do I actually know things are working out for me?
Mhm.
And maybe even more importantly, how can I get this law of the universe? How can I make it work for me? Instead of feeling like it's working against me.
Yeah, great questions. Because they're not just theoretical, are they? They're about, your day-to-day experience, finding some ease. And the material you shared, it doesn't really offer like a rigid checklist for forcing things to happen. Instead, it's more of a perspective shift, focusing on things like allowing and where you put your focus and developing this underlying trust. It suggests that getting a handle on these can really change how you experience things working out and help you align with a flow that feels, well, supportive.
Right. Supportive, not adversarial.
Wow.
So, okay, our mission here is to unpack this material you shared. We want to dig into the main ideas, find those surprising bits, and really pull out the practical guidance it offers. Guidance for dealing with that resistance feeling and for answering those key questions you had about knowing and aligning.
Exactly. It's about exploring that shift, moving away from feeling like you're fighting against everything towards working with what Soros calls this underlying principle of well-being.
Okay, let's dive right in then. The material seems to circle around one core statement, almost like a mantra or an anchor.
It does. That central affirmation is things are always working out for me.
Things are always working out for me. Simple phrase. The source calls it an affirmation worth making.
Hmm.
But, hearing that, especially if you're right in the middle of feeling like absolutely nothing is working out, it might sound a bit, well, maybe unrealistic or even annoying.
Oh, for sure. And the material seems to get that. It asks right away, do you believe it? Do you really? And that's key, isn't it? It highlights that from this viewpoint, it's not just about mouthing the words, it's about the genuine belief, or maybe even just the feeling you can connect to when you think it. Just saying it while feeling total disbelief, according to this source, isn't really going to do much. The feeling part is crucial.
So it's deeper than just repeating something. You have
Yeah.
to find a way to resonate with it internally. And there's that great example in the source, really practical, about how someone actually uses this affirmation day to day, the thing with the cards on the dashboard.
Yeah, I love that anecdote. It's quite specific. It's not just having the card there to glance at. It's positioned, angled just right, so the words, things are always working out for me, reflect onto the windshield. So as you're driving, just looking ahead, that message is sort of subtly there in your field of vision, a constant, gentle reminder.
That's a neat trick, isn't it? Not shouting at you, just reflecting. And the story adds that little detail about the car wash attendant, how the attendant noticed the reflection and said something like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that car before. It's nice.
Right. It's a small thing, but it illustrates how holding that thought, reflecting it even subtly, can create this noticeable energy that others might even pick up on, makes it feel more grounded, less abstract.
Definitely brings it down to earth. But like you said, even if you're doing that, the source is very upfront about the fact that sometimes things feel like they're taking their damn sweet time.
Yeah, and that honesty is important, I think. It validates that feeling. It's not saying this is some magic wand where challenges vanish instantly or things happen on our schedule. It acknowledges the reality of delay, of feeling stuck, even when you're trying to apply this thinking.
Which is probably where a lot of people get tripped up.
Yeah.
So how does the source suggest handling that when the main affirmation feels, well, just too big a jump?
This is where it gets really practical. It offers variations. It understands that if you're feeling really down, forcing yourself to say everything's always perfect can just create more internal conflict, more resistance.
And resistance is the opposite of what you want here, according to this material. Saying something that feels totally fake just digs you in deeper.
Exactly. So the idea is to find a version that feels softer, more accessible, something you can genuinely connect with in that moment. So instead of the big always, maybe start with something like, things often work out for me, just introducing the possibility.
Okay, like cracking the door open a bit. What are some others?
Uh, let's see, there's focusing on awareness, like, I'm often aware that things are always working out for me. Shifts the focus slightly. Or even acknowledging it's sporadic. Sometimes I realize that things are always working out for me. That feels very doable, doesn't it?
Yeah, sometimes I realize almost everyone can probably find moments where that feels true.
Right. Or linking it to how you want to feel. I like it when I'm aware that things are always working out for me. Focuses on the positive feeling associated with that awareness.
Those variations seem really helpful because they meet you where you actually are. It's not demanding this huge leap of faith immediately. Why is finding that true feeling version so important, though?
Well, again, it comes back to the feeling state. The words themselves are less critical than the feeling they generate in you. If the main affirmation creates resistance because it feels like a lie right now, these gentler versions help you kind of sidestep that resistance. They let you find a foothold, a statement that feels less jarring, reducing that internal friction. It's about gently coaxing your feeling state in the right direction.
So it's not faking it, it's finding the version of truth you can genuinely feel now and using that as a starting point. Makes sense. And here's where the material makes a really crucial link, connecting directly back to your question, how do I know things are working out? It says quite clearly, the more you are aware things are working out.
The more they are working out, yes. This is presented as a core mechanism. It suggests your awareness, your expectation aren't just passive, they're active ingredients in shaping your reality. By deliberately putting your attention on the idea that things are working out, this perspective says you're energetically nudging things to align with that. Your
Ah,
focus isn't just commentary, it's seen as a driving force.
wow. Okay, so part of knowing things are working out
Yeah.
is actively cultivating the awareness that they are.
Hmm.
And doing that actually helps make it so it's like a feedback loop. But, okay, let's be real. What about those times when you are just not aware, when you're stuck deep in that feeling that things are absolutely not working out? Full of resistance. The source tackles that too, right?
Yes, absolutely. It asks directly, how can we work our way through that resistance? This is, like you said, often the sticking point.
And the advice is maybe not what you'd expect. It says resistance isn't about the words, it's about how we feel. The feeling itself is the block.
Right. And then comes the key instruction, which can feel really counterintuitive. When you feel that resistance, stop trying to push through it.
Stop pushing. But isn't that what we're always told? Grit your teeth, push harder, overcome the obstacle.
It definitely goes against that grain, but the source explains why pushing backfires here. It says pushing just makes more resistance, so it just gets worse.
Oh, think of it like quicksand. The more you struggle frantically, the deeper you sink. Or like trying to argue someone out of being angry usually just makes them angrier. Applying effort directly against the resistance in this framework just amplifies it. It's counterproductive.
Okay. Trying to force a positive feeling when you feel resistant just makes the resistance stronger. So if you don't push, what do? What's the alternative? The alternative is described as surrendering, giving up, or even just saying, oh, never mind. Now, this isn't meant like giving up in defeat. It's presented as a strategic release. You notice the resistance, you feel it, and you consciously choose to stop fighting it in that moment. You give up the effort against it.
Oh, so it's like saying, okay, this feels really sticky right now. Fighting it isn't working. I'm going to just stop trying so hard for a minute.
Precisely that. Acknowledge the feeling, but stop feeding it energy by pushing against it. And it connects this directly to making things work out. When you notice something isn't working, the sequence suggested is, first, relax. Find a way to ease up, allow the path of least resistance to move it along. Then, once you've released some of that tension, maybe found a slightly better feeling, then you can reaffirm things are always working out for me from that clearer space.
Okay, that sequence is super practical. It answers that how to make it work for me bit.
It's great.
Feel resistance, stop pushing surrender, relax, ease up, then affirm. You don't slap the affirmation onto the bad feeling. You soothe the bad feeling first.
Exactly. You're aiming to align your feeling state before you use your thoughts or words. The resistance is like being tuned to the wrong radio station full of static. You can't hear the music, clearly. You have to release the static, tune in first by finding a slightly better feeling. Then you can broadcast your intended signal, the affirmation.
That makes a lot of sense. And this idea of feeling state leads into another layer the source talks about, which is foundational trust. It's not just managing thoughts, but cultivating a deeper feeling of trust, right?
Yes, absolutely. The material brings in these internal states like, I'm beginning to trust in my own well-being, or I'm beginning to trust in my own worthiness. This feels really fundamental. It shifts the focus from just trusting external events to trusting something inherent in you.
trusting that at your core you are okay, you are worthy, and that well-being is natural for you. That seems like it would underpin everything else.
It really does. And the source links this internal trust to feeling connected to something bigger. It mentions feeling like I am the object of the attention of source of non-physical energy, and feeling that a whole lot of non-physically focused beings have my back.
Hmm.
So it's not about being isolated or having to do it all alone. It's about cultivating this sense of pervasive support, guidance, like you're being watched over by a benevolent force. That feeling of support is presented as crucial for really believing things are working out.
So the external experience of things working out reflects this internal feeling of worthiness and support.
That's the idea. The source emphasizes the feeling again. I can feel that things are working out for me. It's like an inner knowing. It doesn't always rely on immediate outside proof. It comes from that internal sense of alignment, trust, and peace that things are unfolding okay, even if you can't see the end result yet.
Okay. But feeling supported doesn't mean you just sit back and do nothing, does it?
Yeah.
The source talks about an active role through awareness and focus.
Definitely. You're actively involved. It talks about helping things work out in a more conscious way, specifically by being consciously aware that things are always working out for me.
So it's an active cultivation of that awareness, that inner conviction,
Mm-hmm.
even if circumstances look different on the surface. This really hits that gap between how things seem and what you want to believe.
Yes, and the source acknowledges that gap directly. It says something like, they don't seem like they're always working out for me, but deep down I know that they are always working out for me. It highlights the power of that inner knowing, that conviction, to sort of override the temporary external picture, trusting your inner compass more than the immediate weather report, if you like.
And this focus, this conscious awareness, it leads to that really direct, maybe even blunt instruction about where you put your attention. The source says, I don't focus at conditions that are awful and expect to feel good. It doesn't seem smart.
It's pretty straightforward logic from this perspective, isn't it? If feeling good is the goal, and the source says feeling good helps things work out, then deliberately staring at things that feel awful is, well, counterproductive. It's guaranteed to make you feel bad, which works against the very flow you're trying to tap into. Like looking at pictures of spiders, if you're scared of spiders and hoping to feel calm,
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it sounds obvious. So the alternative strategy is just as simple.
Just as simple in concept. I focus upon conditions that are wonderful and then I feel good. It's a deliberate choice. Shift your focus, your mental energy, to things that uplift you, things you appreciate, things that feel good, and the feeling follows.
Okay, and this is where that head in the sand analogy comes in, which could easily be misunderstood.
It really could sound like denial or avoidance, but the source uses it differently. It's not about pretending problems don't exist out there in the world. The head in the sand is a metaphor for a chosen focus. It means deliberately choosing not to dwell on, analyze, or wallow in the negative, resistant feeling stuff, because doing so generates feelings that block the flow. It's a strategic management of your attention to protect your positive feeling state.
Ah, okay. So the sand is like the boundary around
Eh.
your focus, keeping the negativity out to maintain a better feeling. And this connects to what feels like the absolute core idea. Because feeling good seems to be why things are always working out for me.
Yes. This is probably the most pivotal insight in the material, and it directly addresses your how to make it work for me question. It suggests feeling good isn't just a nice side effect after things work out. It's presented as a primary cause, an enabler. Your emotional state, achieved by deliberately focusing and releasing resistance, is what aligns you with the flow where things can work out smoothly. It completely flips the usual way of thinking.
It flips it from I'll feel good when XYZ happens to I need to feel good so that XYZ can happen.
Precisely. It puts the power squarely in your present moment feeling state.
Wow. Okay. So the most direct, practical thing you can do to make the universe work for you, according to this source, is to prioritize feeling good. Consciously cultivate that feeling.
That's the core engine described. By choosing thoughts, focuses, activities that generate those positive feelings, you're creating the internal alignment that allows the external working out to happen more easily. It's all inside out.
And to make space for that good feeling, you also need to let go of the things blocking it. The source mentions specific things to give up.
Yes, it talks about giving up common forms of resistance, things like the struggle, the battle. Those make sense based on what we've discussed about not pushing. But then it specifically calls out the blame and even more strongly, the guilt.
Why those two specifically? Blame, it says, is a big one, and guilt is even bigger.
Well, think about what they do. Blame points outward at people, situations, the past. It keeps your focus locked on the negative external or past, and it gives your power away. You can't feel good while actively blaming. Guilt is blame turned inward. It's focusing on your own perceived past mistakes or flaws, generating heavy negative feelings and self-judgment. This directly undermines that core need to trust your own worthiness and well-being. Both blame and guilt anchor you firmly in negativity and resistance, making it almost impossible to shift into that feel-good state that allows things to flow.
They keep you stuck, either looking backward or outward in negativity instead of finding the good feeling in the present.
Exactly. And the source says giving them up is crucial to let things work out for me even more. Releasing that heavy emotional weight frees you up to feel better and align more easily.
So when you manage to release that stuff, the struggle, blame, guilt, and you cultivate feeling good, what does the experience actually feel like? The source describes it as flow, right?
Yes, it uses this great metaphor of smoothing out the flow. It contrasts the old way with having less flood and less drought. And it applies this specifically to abundance, too. You can smooth the abundance out.
I like that image. Less extreme swings, less feast or famine, flood or drought. More of a steady, reliable stream.
Exactly. It's about allowing things to come to me more smoothly. By consciously working on releasing resistance, smoothing out that path of least resistance, the path itself becomes easier over time. There's just
Right.
less friction.
And the result of less friction, the smoother flow?
Speed. The source says when you're aligned, resistance is low, the path is clear. When you get an idea for something you want, it can come to me swiftly and speedily. Alignment allows for rapid manifestation.
That directly addresses that taking its damn sweet time feeling. Less resistance equals more speed. But what if things are still taking time, even when you feel like you're doing this?
Yeah, the source includes a really important balancing statement here. It says something like, doesn't have to take as long as it is. It's all right that it does. It acknowledges that while alignment can bring speed, sometimes things just take the time they take. The key seems to be aim for alignment and flow to allow for speed, but accept the current timing without letting that acceptance become a new source of resistance or doubt.
That's subtle. So don't look at the current pace and conclude, see, it's not working, because that just creates resistance again. Accept the pace while continuing to focus on alignment and feeling good.
Precisely. Strive for flow, but be at peace with what is right now. And the source even points out that the words used to describe this state, smooth, ease, swift, speedy, allowing, are they inherently calming and reassuring?
They are. Using language that evokes the desired feeling is part of the process itself, it seems, helping you resonate with that state of ease.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving from the personal feeling of flow, the force also emphasizes a key relationship that supports all this, the connection with inner being or source.
Yes, it brings in these really powerful affirmations about that connection. Things like, source adores me, my inner being adores me, and simply, I am so loved.
This really reinforces that feeling of being supported, of not being alone in this that we touched on earlier, grounding it in a specific relationship.
It does. And it introduces this concept of your inner being as the dominant partner of alignment.
Dominant partner. What does that mean in practice based on the material?
Well, the idea is that your inner being, that non-physical core part of you, is always in a state of perfect alignment. It's always tuned to well-being, always knows things are working out, always holds the frequency of your desires fulfilled. It's like the unwavering, perfectly tuned version of you. Your physical self, with its shifting thoughts and feelings based on daily life, is the other part. The partnership is about you and your physical experience consciously tuning yourself to match the already perfect frequency of your inner being. It's the dominant partner because its alignment is constant and unconditional. Your job isn't to convince it or change it. Your job is to align with it.
Okay. So my inner being is already broadcasting, things are working out perfectly. My task is to tune my own receiver, my feelings, and focus to that station.
That's a great way to put it. You're aligning with the signal that's already pure and strong. And releasing resistance. Feeling good, that's how you tune in.
Got it. Then the source broadens the scope, saying this isn't just personal, it applies to everyone.
Yes, it explicitly says things are always working out for you too, speaking to you, the listener, and even things are always working out for all of us.
Right.
It presents it as a universal principle.
Which naturally leads to the person looking around at the world or their own life and saying, yeah, well, I really don't see that everywhere.
Exactly. And the source acknowledges that reaction directly. It says, essentially, a lot of people don't see it, but then they don't thrive. That's a pretty bold connection. It directly links the perception, whether you see and trust things are working out, with the actual experience of thriving. It implies that not seeing it isn't just a passive observation, it's somehow actively hindering the thriving process.
It goes back to that core mechanism, doesn't it? If feeling good, which comes from focusing on things working out, is why you thrive,
Yeah.
you can't feel good because you're focused on evidence against things working out, then yeah, you're blocking the conditions for thriving.
Precisely. Your focus creates your feeling, which creates your point of attraction. Focus on lack, feel bad, attract more lack, hinder thriving. Focus on possibility, feel better, attract more possibility, allow thriving.
And to make this universal idea maybe a bit more graspable, the source uses those big planetary examples, contrasting them with common fears.
Right, it points to the cosmos. Look at this planet spinning in its orbit. Things are so working out for us. Using the inherent order and functionality of the universe as evidence. Then it contrasts that with the anxieties we hear. Oh, they keep telling us something's going to hit us. We're going to go out of orbit. Things are going wrong.
All those external narratives that fuel the feeling that things are precarious, not working out.
Yes. And the source juxtaposes those fears with the unwavering assertion that, despite the scary stories, the underlying reality is that things are always working out. It uses that almost comical drought example. They keep telling us it's never going to rain again, and now we're on the streets in our boat. Things are always working out.
Right, the image of being warned of catastrophic drought and then
Yeah.
ending up needing a boat because of floods. It perfectly captures that idea of trusting a larger, unpredictable flow. Things work out, just maybe not in the linear, expected way.
Exactly. It's an invitation to trust the underlying order even when the surface looks chaotic or contradictory to the fearful predictions. See the bigger pattern.
So, given all this,
Yeah.
how does someone actually get to this place, this state of consistently knowing and trusting? The source talks about the journey, right?
It does, and it suggests it's often gradual, not usually some big overnight epiphany. The phrase used is, it happened so gradually I can't even remember.
Mm.
It's presented more as an evolution, a slow shift in focus and feeling over time as you practice these ideas.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a dramatic story, which means if you reach that thriving state and someone asks, wow, how did you do it? You used to struggle. You don't need some complex explanation.
Apparently not. The
Yeah.
source suggests trying to explain the nuances to someone who cannot hear my explanation. Someone deeply invested in a struggle-based view is often pointless. It can even drag you back into resistance.
Right, like trying to explain the taste of chocolate to someone who's never had it.
Right.
So practically, what does it suggest saying?
It suggests simple, direct statements that reflect your state without needing to justify the how. Things like, I'm just the thriver, or just repeating the core affirmation, things are always working out for me. Let your state of being be the explanation, essentially. Live it, don't necessarily preach it.
And this ties back again to surrender, doesn't it? How'd you get there?
Yeah, what's that?
Well, I surrendered.
Yes. Framing the arrival not as conquest, but as release. And it gives specific examples of what was surrendered. Things like, stopped trying to prove my worthiness, I just accepted it.
Ooh, that's big. Giving up the fight for external validation.
And also, stop trying to defend my position, I just held it.
Giving up the need to argue or justify your choices or beliefs. Those feel like huge internal shifts. Letting go of major sources of resistance.
They really do. Surrendering the struggle around proving or defending allows you to just be worthy, just hold your position, and let the flow work.
And the final thought on the timeline of this journey. Happily ever after, not happily before. What's the takeaway there?
It's such a lovely reframing. It suggests that happily ever after, that state where things feel like they're working out, where you're thriving isn't some future destination you reach after all problems are solved. It's a state you choose to inhabit now, moment by moment, by practicing these principles of alignment, focus, and trust. You live the ever after now, rather than constantly waiting for perfect conditions to arrive before you allow yourself to feel happy or trust that things are working out.
So the goal isn't a perfect future. It's a state of being cultivated in the present. That's powerful. Okay, let's try to wrap this up and pull together the practical threads from the source material for you, our listener.
Right, so based on this dive, the practical framework from the source seems to center on a few key things. One, cultivating conscious awareness and expectation that things are working out even if it doesn't look like it yet. That's part of how you know by choosing to look for it.
There. 2, practicing allowing and surrendering resistance. Actually stopping the pushing when you feel stuck. That's part of how you make it work for you.
3, making that deliberate choice of focus. Shifting attention from the awful to the wonderful, specifically to feel good, because that feeling is the engine.
4. Building that foundation of inner trust in your own well-being, your worthiness, and feeling that larger support.
And 5, actively letting go of the heavy stuff, the struggle, the battle, blame, and especially guilt.
Great summary. And connecting that back explicitly to your original questions. How do I know things are working out for me? The source suggests you know it through the feeling of trust, through awareness of signs, even small ones, by actively focusing on supporting evidence, and by experiencing that increased flow and speed that comes with alignment.
And how can I make the law of the universe work for me, not against me? By aligning yourself with it. You do that by releasing resistance, by prioritizing feeling good. That's key. By trusting yourself and the process, and by expecting things to work out. It's less about manipulation, more about alignment and allowing.
This dive into the material you brought us definitely offers a unique and sometimes challenging perspective. It leaves us with a core idea from the source to really chew on. To the degree that we know that and trust that and relax into that, then things do work out for us. The depth of our trust seems key.
And perhaps even more provocative. The idea that feeling good isn't just the reward after things work out, but maybe, just maybe, it's the actual reason they do. That focusing on feeling good is the work.
A lot to think about there. Thank you so much for sharing these sources and sparking this fascinating deep dive.
Absolutely. It certainly offers a different lens for navigating challenges and creating what you want. A shift from striving to allowing.